So, I'm going to start off by playing a couple clips from one of my favorite movies, 17 again. Okay, so I want you to watch Ned.
I love your thing. You are Ned.
Welcome. Thank you.
Love this movie.
Yes, Mr. Gould, do you have a question?
You're yours, please.
Oh, not a question, but thank you.
Would the lady mind first, ma'am?
I think now would probably be a good time to tell you that I don't date my students' parents.
Okay, well, maybe I should tell you that I've never not dated the principal of my job. Okay, come on then. Let's go. Stop the clock.
Okay. Find a different clip really quick. Hold on, sorry.
It was so educational.
It really is. Wait for this next one. Okay.
On YouTube, you don't look like you got your hands kicked.
Oh, sorry.
That's not good.
That was messed up. Okay.
No, what? Oh, no. To the untrained eye, I look like a total idiot. You did that. In fact, but it's actually a seduction technique. No, that's peacocking. My outfit serves a dual function. An icebreaker and attention getter.
You can go in now.
Watch.
Are you peacocking? Really? You think that's gonna work?
I think it just might.
Okay.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
And then.
You really think so?
Oh.
I just. Oh, hi. Oh,
What's it gonna be now, Ned? Did you have in Statue of Liberty?
I'm just gonna ask you about, okay? Like I brought up, just two friends having. Then, if it turns into anything else, we'll cross over when we come up.
No. Good night.
I'll buy every student a laptop. You would deny the children laptops. Miss Masters of the children.
Okay. Fine. But this is not a date.
No, in no way.
And if I do this, you will stop the inappropriate behavior and gifts.
Yes.
We're just gonna drive to this restaurant. We're not gonna fly there in the space shuttle. Drive in some garden tacky limo.
That's right.
Okay, one more really quick. Oh,
That's good.
I practiced this. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to talk to you.
What are you doing?
I practiced this. Okay. I have just seen my best friend lose everything that means anything to him, and maybe we'll never be there.
Yes, I understand, but I have told you before that I am the principal, and I can be seen with my students' parents.
But Jane, how can you be seen with me when I'm wearing overall visibility?
Okay. So, in all those different clips, obviously what Ned wanted was to get the girl. And what he was doing was testing different ideas and hoping that eventually one would work and he would get the girl. So he did the peacocking, he did her buying her stuff, he was, and then in the end what actually worked was they had this common interest of the some sort of movie that they watched in the Invisibility Club. And so what he was doing was a form of science by testing ideas and disregarding ones that don't work, which is a kind of everyday science. And this process, making observations of the world, proposing ideas about how something works, testing those ideas, and discarding our ideas in response to the test results, is the essence of the scientific method. The scientific method is used to solve problems and answer questions efficiently and effectively. So, hypothesis is something that we use in science, in the scientific method. And does anybody know what the definition of a hypothesis is?
An educated
Yes. It is a proposed explanation for one or more observations. So through trying different things over and over again, you come up with an idea about how things work and what works best. Kind of like Ned in the videos tried different things, and then he finally came up with this common interest that he had that worked best. Okay. So,
Can I have pen?
Yeah.
oh, never mind, happened. Okay. So, there are 3 things that your hypothesis must be. And the first one is that it must be testable. My handwriting is really bad. Okay. So testable means that it must be possible to evaluate the hypothesis through observations of the measurable universe. So for example, the statement that colds are generated by disturbances in psychic energy is not a scientific hypothesis because psychic energy does not have a material nature and thus cannot be seen or measured in a test. So your hypothesis has to be testable. And obviously, things that are psychic are not testable because they're not possible to test. They're not natural. They're not anything. Okay. So the second thing that a hypothesis must be is falsifiable. Okay. So falsifiable is an observation or set of observations that can potentially prove it false. So if it's falsifiable, it can be disproven. And an example of this is the hypothesis that exposure to cold temperatures increases your susceptibility to colds is falsifiable. We can imagine an observation that would cause us to reject this hypothesis, and that's why it's falsifiable. And the third one is that it can't be a value judgment. A value judgment. Okay, so statements that are value judgments are not scientific because different people have different ideas about right or wrong. So if you, for example, if you're to say it is wrong to cheat on an exam, that can't be a valid hypothesis because it's based on values. It's a value judgment. So those are the 3 things that your hypothesis must be. So through testing things and trying them over and over again, scientists are able to come up with something called a scientific theory. It is an explanation for a set of related observations that is based on well-supported hypothesis from several different independent lines of research. So I have a little thing to read on what scientific theory is. So it says, the biologist Louis Pasteur first observed that bacteria cause milk to become sour. From this observation, he reasoned that these same types of organisms could injure humans. Later, Robert Koch demonstrated a link between anthrax bacteria and a specific set of fatal symptoms in mice. Providing additional evidence, germ theory is further supported by an observation that antibiotic treatment that targets particular microorganisms can cure certain illnesses, as in the case with bacteria-caused ulcers. In everyday speech, the word theory is synonymous with untested ideas based on little information. In contrast, scientists use the term when referring to well-supported ideas of how the natural world works. The supporting foundation of all scientific theories is multiple hypothesis tests. So in science, things can never be proven. They can only be scientific theories because in order to be a good hypothesis, it has to be able to be disproven. So it can never be a fact. And then, so the supporting foundations of all scientific theories is multiple hypothesis testing. So by testing it a lot and trying to come up with the right solution. And so, okay, so there are two different ways that one can come up with a hypothesis. And I'm going to erase these. Okay. So the first way that you can come up with a hypothesis is through inductive reasoning. Does anybody know what inductive reasoning is? Miri.
It's reasoning through observations.
Yes, perfect. So the definition is combining a series of specific observations to discern a general principle. So you gather all the observations and then you come up with an inductive reason. And then the second way to come up with a hypothesis is through deductive reasoning. So if inductive reasoning is through observations, what do you guys think deductive reasoning is? Ellen?
It is with facts, probably using logic and stuff like that.
Yep, perfect. It involves using general principles to predict an expected observation. And also it takes the form of an if-then statement. Okay. So through these types of reasonings, you come up with your prediction, which is the result that you expect from your hypothesis test. I'm going to read a scenario, and I'm going to ask you if it's inductive or deductive. So, consider the following scenario. Your coworker Homer is a notorious donut lover who has a nose for free food. You walk into the break room one morning to discover a box from the donut shop that is already completely empty. According to this information, what most likely happened to the donuts? Is this inductive or deductive hypothesis? So what most likely happened to the donuts?
He ate them.
Yes. And Ryan, is that inductive or deductive?
Inductive.
Perfect.
Wow.
Okay.
What up?
And then, okay, so I have another question. Consider this if-then statement, which if-then, is if-then inductive or deductive?
Deductive.
Yes. Okay, so consider this if-then statement. If your coworker Homer ate all the donuts, then there won't be any donuts left in the box that was placed in the break room 30 minutes ago. Imagine you find the donuts are all gone. Did you just prove that Homer ate them? Does anyone know the answer?
No.
Correct. You did not prove that you ate them. Okay. So, deductive reasoning is a powerful method for testing hypotheses, but it can be rejected if it is not true. Hence the if-then. Okay. And it is impossible to prove it is true because there are alternative hypotheses that can explain the results that you got. So, hypotheses can never be proven absolutely true, like I said before. In science, it can't be proven true. It's always possible that the true cause of the phenomenon may be found in a hypothesis that has not yet been tested. However, in a practical sense, a hypothesis can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but they can never be absolute fact. Okay, so now we're going to talk about experiments. Does anybody have a good definition for what an experiment is? Miri.
A set of trials used to prove your hypothesis.
Good. Okay, the definition here says sets of actions or observations designed to test specific hypotheses. An experiment allows a scientist to control the conditions that may affect the subject of study. Manipulating the environment allows scientists to eliminate some alternative hypotheses that may explain the result. So I have a little analogy kind of thing. It's about experiments and what scientists do as they experiment, and it relates it to a car. So, experimentation in science is analogous to what a mechanic does when diagnosing a car problem. There are many reasons why a car engine might not start. If a mechanic begins by tinkering with numerous parts,